Before Google, before Facebook, before Wi-Fi, there was a voice.
You've got mail.
For millions of people, that wasn't just a notification. It was the internet. In the late 1990s, more than half of American internet users went online through one company. AOL didn't just connect people to the web. For a moment in time, AOL was the web. And then it disappeared. Not in a scandal, not in a dramatic collapse. It faded. So how does a company worth over $200 billion become a footnote? In the 1980s, the internet wasn't friendly. It was academic, technical, confusing. Most normal people had no idea what it was, let alone how to use it. Steve Case saw something different. He wasn't a coder or a hacker archetype. He was a strategist. And he believed that regular families would go online if you removed the fear. So his company, originally called Quantum Computer Services, evolved into something new: America Online. Not just access, an experience, a friendly interface, curated news, moderated chat rooms, email that felt magical. Then came the masterstroke: distribution. AOL sent free trial CDs everywhere. Mailboxes, magazines, airports. At one point, it was estimated that over half of the CDs produced in the world carried the AOL logo. They didn't win because they built the most advanced technology. They won because they made the internet simple. By the late 90s, if you asked someone to go online, they didn't say open a browser. They said log into AOL. The business model was beautiful. Monthly subscriptions for dial-up internet access. Predictable revenue. Millions of households paying every month just to connect. And because AOL acted like a digital mall with a curated homepage and featured content, they controlled attention too. They weren't just providing access, they were the gatekeeper. At its peak, AOL had more than 30 million subscribers. Its market value briefly crossed $200 billion. At the time, AOL was valued higher than Disney, McDonald's, and Coca-Cola combined. This was the first true internet empire. And Steve Case believed something even bigger. He believed in convergence, content plus distribution, old media plus new media. In January 2000, AOL merged with Time Warner in a $165 billion deal, the largest merger the world had ever seen. The internet had officially married Hollywood. And then the bubble burst. The dot-com crash wiped out trillions in market value. But the deeper problem wasn't the crash, it was broadband. Dial-up required logging in, waiting, listening to that screeching modem sound. Broadband was always on, always connected. And when you're always connected, you don't need a walled garden. You open a browser, you go straight to Google, you leave. AOL's entire identity was built on being the gateway. But the web no longer needed a gate. Worse, AOL's revenue still depended on dial-up subscriptions. That cash cow funded everything, so every strategic decision had to protect it. They couldn't cannibalize themselves fast enough. Meanwhile, Google monetized search, Facebook built social networks, cable companies controlled broadband infrastructure. AOL was stuck in between. Within 2 years of the merger, the combined company reported a $99 billion loss, one of the largest corporate losses ever recorded. Cultural clashes followed. Dot-com optimism met old media bureaucracy. Speed met hierarchy. Vision met reality. And slowly, AOL didn't explode. It shrank. There's a twist to this story. AOL owned AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, one of the first dominant messaging platforms in the world. Buddy lists, status messages, presence indicators. They had network effects before the term became startup jargon. They were sitting on the bones of Facebook, WhatsApp, and Slack. But AIM was treated as a feature, not a future. Everything had to protect subscriptions. That's the real lesson. AOL didn't fail because dial-up existed. They failed because their success convinced them they understood why people loved them. They believed users wanted guidance. The web rewarded freedom. They optimized for control. The internet optimized for openness. AOL built the first shopping mall of the internet. Clean, safe, structured. Then the city grew around it, and people realized they preferred wandering. The tragedy is simple. AOL helped millions discover the internet, but once people understood it, they didn't need a guide anymore. Steve Case stepped down in 2003. Years later, he launched Rise of the Rest, investing in startups outside Silicon Valley. Instead of building a gate, he started funding ecosystems. There's something poetic in that shift, from controlling access to decentralizing opportunity. AOL wasn't stupid, it was early. And in technology, being 5 years too soon can look identical to being wrong. The dial-up tone wasn't just a connection sound. It was the birth of the first internet empire, and the quiet reminder that the internet doesn't stay owned. AOL tried to build the gateway to the digital world. They believed scale meant control, that the future could be packaged, protected, and monetized. But the internet had other plans. It refused to stay inside walls. Now imagine a different kind of ambition. Not connecting living rooms, not merging with media giants, but building rockets in a warehouse because you think humanity needs a backup planet. If AOL shows us what happens when you try to contain the future, SpaceX asks a different question. What happens when you try to outrun it? Next episode, we leave dial-up behind. We leave Earth behind. And we step into the mind of a founder who didn't want to own the gateway. He wanted to rewrite gravity. Now I want to hear from you. Which founder, company, or rise and fall story should we cover next? Drop your ideas in the comments, and it might just become the next episode of The Founder Files.